Imagine if I told you there was a time when men were burned alive for trying to turn lead into gold. And most disturbingly, some of them achieved something even more valuable. As you watch this video comfortably in your home, there were people who spent decades locked in dark basements, breathing toxic mercury fumes, deciphering secret codes that could mean infinite wealth or death at the stake. They were called madmen, heretics, charlatans. But without them, modern medicine wouldn't exist. Chemistry would be just a dream. And the secret they truly discovered is so powerful that it still influences Silicon Valley billionaires today. This is the true story of the medieval alchemists, and it will change everything you thought you knew about the Middle Ages. So, what was this forbidden world I mentioned? Let's walk together down the damp stone stairs that led to the medieval laboratories. The first impact was the smell, a suffocating mixture of burning sulfur, distilled vinegar, and something metallic that stuck in the throat. The smoke was so thick that your eyes would water before you could even see anything. And when your eyes finally adjusted to the dim light, what you saw seemed like something out of a nightmare. Dark green glass bottles bubbled on their own. Ceramic retorts connected by copper tubes snaked around the tables like the intestines of some mechanical creature. In the center was the Athanor, the sacred furnace that could never be extinguished. Some alchemists slept beside it, waking every hour to feed the flames. 40 days and 40 nights was the minimum time for the great work. Imagine spending more than a month without seeing sunlight. On the shelves were vials labeled with names that would cause us panic today: white arsenic, red mercury, black antimony. They handled these substances with their bare hands. There were no gloves, masks, or any other protection. Mercury, which they called living silver, was considered the liquid soul of metals. Many drank it, believing it purified the body. Centuries later, Isaac Newton nearly died from mercury poisoning during his secret alchemical experiments. The Maya walls were covered with symbols that blended astrology, religion, and personal codes. A dragon devouring its own tail, a bleeding black sun, a child hatching from a philosophical egg. Each drawing was a formula in disguise. If the Inquisition invaded, they could claim they were merely biblical illustrations. Work always began at midnight. They believed that certain transmutations only worked under lunar influence. They ground minerals with marble mortars for hours until they turned to a very fine powder. Then they heated, cooled, dissolved, crystallized, repeating the process dozens, sometimes hundreds of times. Each mistake meant starting over from scratch. Each failure consumed fortunes in rare materials. Some alchemists recorded signs of progressive madness: hand tremors from mercury, hallucinations from arsenic, delusions of grandeur from extreme isolation. Thomas Aquinas wrote of a colleague who swore he saw demons dancing in the flames of the Athanor. Today we know it was vaporized lead poisoning, but the most disturbing thing wasn't the poisonous substances, it was the obsession. Alchemists abandoned families, sold properties, and sacrificed everything for the next experiment. Because every time the lead bubbled, every time a new color appeared in the flask, they believed they were seconds away from the ultimate discovery. And it was precisely this moment of near glory that kept them imprisoned in those cellars forever. And it was precisely this obsession that put them in the crosshairs of the most powerful and feared institution of the time. Because while they slowly poisoned themselves in their secret laboratories outside, the Catholic Church smelled heresy in the sulfur-laden air. The year is 1317. Pope John XXIII issues a papal bull condemning alchemy as demonic fraud. From that moment on, possessing a simple vial of mercury could be a death sentence, but most cruelly, many alchemists were monks and priests themselves. In 1404, King Henry IV of England signed the Act Against Multipliers, imposing the death penalty on anyone attempting to create gold. In Germany, alchemists were hanged on painted golden gallows to mock their failure. In Paris, they were burned with their own manuscripts, the flames fueled by the same eyes they used in their experiments. The most brutal case occurred in Prague. Johann Hector, a court physician and alchemist, promised the emperor to transform lead into gold in 3 months. When he failed, he was hung in an iron cage in the castle's highest tower for 2 years. Fed only bread and water, He froze to death in the dead of winter, still muttering alchemical formulas. But here's the plot twist no one tells you about. The church itself secretly funded alchemists. Pope Sylvester II was known for his occult studies. Benedictine monasteries had underground laboratories. How to explain this hypocrisy? Simple: gold. The church needed wealth, and if someone truly discovered transmutation, then alchemists developed an indecipherable language. They called mercury the blood of the green dragon. Sulfur was the red lion. The distillation process became a chemical marriage. If caught, they claimed to be writing religious allegories about the resurrection of Christ. They created secret societies that communicated through symbols hidden in works of art. Notre Dame Cathedral, for example, is replete with alchemical symbols disguised as biblical figures. Nicolas Flamel himself financed entire churches, buying protection with generous donations. But paranoia was constant. Alchemists moved cities every few months, used false names, and destroyed successful formulas for fear of being tortured into revealing them. Some feigned madness when captured. Better to be considered insane than hairy. The most ingenious method of protection was spreading false recipes. For every true formula, they created 10 fraudulent ones. If the Inquisition tested it and failed, the alchemist could claim to have been deceived as well. A deadly game of disinformation that confounds historians to this day. And there were the informers, failed alchemists, who denounced the successful. Ones out of envy, assistants who stole formulas and betrayed their masters in exchange for clemency. In Venice, they uncovered a spy ring where the Goldsmiths Guild itself paid informants to eliminate alchemical competitors. But most ironically, of all while they were burning alchemists for seeking eternal life, the church was selling indulgences, promising eternal salvation. While they were condemning them for attempting to transmute metals, the Vatican was melting down Inca gold to make sacred chalices. The true heresy wasn't seeking the impossible. It was achieving it without asking Rome's permission. But after all, what was so powerful that it was worth risking being burned alive by the church? The answer lies in 3 obsessions that consumed entire generations of alchemists. And brace yourself, because what they were really searching for is far more disturbing than you might imagine. First, the Philosopher's Stone. Forget Harry Potter. The real stone was described as a blood-red substance, the size of a pea, that glowed in the dark with its own light. A microscopic fragment dissolved in molten lead was enough to instantly transmute it into pure gold. But here's the macabre detail they omit. Many believed the main ingredient was human blood distilled for years. Roger Bacon spent 20 years trying to create the stone. His diary, discovered in Oxford, describes how he sacrificed his sight by inhaling toxic fumes day after day. In the end, half blind and delirious, he swore he saw the stone form for 3 seconds before evaporating. It was like holding a star being born, he wrote with a trembling hand. The second goal was even more seductive, the elixir of life. It wasn't just about living forever, it was about reversing aging. 80-year-old alchemists swore they'd returned to their 30s after drinking their potions. Teeth grew back, grey hair darkened, wrinkles disappeared, as if the skin melted and reformed. Arnold of Villanova, physician to Pope Clement V, created an elixir with liquid gold, dissolved pearls, and something he called dew, collected under the full moon in May. The Pope drank it for 3 years. He died at 50, spitting out golden blood. The autopsy revealed that his internal organs were covered in a thin metallic layer. He had literally turned to gold from within. But the transmutation of metals was only the beginning. The real secret was spiritual transmutation. You see, they believed the entire universe was in constant evolution. Lead was not inferior to gold. It was gold in its infancy. Each metal represented a stage of the human soul. Lead represented ignorance, strangeness, fear, iron, anger, copper, desire, mercury, inconstancy, silver, reflection, and gold. Gold represented total enlightenment. The process had 7 stages, each more brutal than the last. Calcination, burning, away all impurities from the soul through extreme suffering. Putrefaction, allowing the ego to rot until nothing remains. Some alchemists spent weeks in crypts surrounded by corpses to absorb the energy of decomposition. Separation was literally tearing off parts of oneself. John D. Permy, Queen Elizabeth's alchemist, wrote of cutting off his own little finger as an offering to the process. Conjunction meant uniting impossible opposites. Many alchemists drank androgynous potions, attempting to become both male and female simultaneously. Fermentation introduced the divine spark, distillation purified to the absolute essence, and coagulation was the moment when one ceased to be human and became something more. The texts describe successful alchemists as beings who didn't need to eat, felt neither heat nor cold, and could see through solid matter. But most frightening were the rumors about those who succeeded. Nicolas Flamel was seen in Paris 200 years after his supposed death. The Count of Saint-Germain appeared in European courts without aging for centuries, always looking the same as he did in his 40s. Fulcanelli, the mysterious 20th century alchemist, simply disappeared after supposedly completing his great work, and there was a terrible price to pay. The texts warned, to create gold you must become gold. To conquer death you must die 1,000 times. Many alchemists went mad in the process, others simply changed. Witnesses described metallic voices, skin with a subtle golden glow, eyes that reflected their own light in total darkness. The truth is, they weren't just trying to make gold, they were trying to hack the laws of reality, and some may have achieved more than they should have. And among all those who dared to hack reality, some names became such powerful legends that to this day we don't know where history ends and myth begins. Prepare to meet the most controversial and fascinating characters in this impossible quest. Nicolas Flamel. This name has appeared many times, but his real story is even more bizarre than fiction. He was just a humble copyist in Paris until the day a strange Jewish salesman gave him a manuscript for 2 florins. The Book of Abraham. The Jew Flamel spent 21 years trying to decipher. He traveled to Spain disguised as a pilgrim to meet Kabbalist rabbis. And then, in 1382, something changed. Suddenly, Flamel began building hospitals. He financed 14 churches and erected monuments throughout Paris. A copyist who earned copper coins was spending fortunes on gold. When he died, officially in 1418, the mob invaded his home, searching for the source of his wealth. They found the cellar empty except for strange symbols on the floor that appeared to have been burned into the stone. But here's the disturbing detail. In 1761, travelers swore they dined with Nicolas and Perenelli Flamel at an inn in India. The couple looked no older than 40, now to Celsus. Their real names were Philippus Aureolis, Theophrastos, Bombastos, von Hohenheim. Yes, Bombastos. This arrogant Swiss publicly burned Galen's medical books, shouting, "My beard's no more than all your libraries." It seemed crazy, but to Celsus he was right. He discovered that diseases could be cured with controlled doses of poison. He invented anesthesia using opium. He treated the plague with mercury, but his obsession was creating artificial life. The homunculus, a miniature human grown in a jar. The recipe contained no human, horse blood, and manure fermented for 40 days at body temperature. Celsus swore he had created a 30-centimeter creature that lived for 3 months before escaping. He died in a tavern at the age of 47. The autopsy revealed that his body showed no signs of decomposition, even weeks after death. But no story is more intriguing than that of Maria the Jewess, the first documented alchemist in history, who lived in Alexandria in the 15th century and invented equipment still used today. The Bain Marie is named after her, but Maria harbored a terrible secret. Her writings describe how to feed the stone with the virgin's milk and the blood of the green lion. Modern historians have discovered that she ran an orphanage. Children disappeared with disturbing frequency. Edward Kelly, Queen Elizabeth I's alchemist, is a case of fraud gone horribly wrong. A notorious charlatan convinced John Dee he could speak to angels. He used a stolen Aztec obsidian mirror for his visions, but in 1586, Kelly performed a public transmutation in Prague. He cut a piece of lead from a beam, heated it with a red powder, and the metal turned to gold in front of 27 witnesses, including the English ambassador. The gold was tested by independent goldsmiths. It was pure. Kelly was imprisoned by Emperor Rudolph II, who demanded the formula. He died trying to escape prison by jumping from a tower. But before dying, he shouted something in a language no one recognized. The stones where his body fell were permanently golden, and there were self-confessed charlatans. Giuseppe Balsamo, Count Cagliostro, sold elixirs of youth to desperate noblewomen, sugar water for fortunes in gold. He was imprisoned 17 times in different countries, but when he was finally executed by the Inquisition, he was 74 years old and looked 30. The executioners swore his blood glowed, the most mysterious of all Foielli. No one knows his real name. He published 2 books in the 1920s, revealing alchemical secrets hidden in Gothic cathedrals. His student, Eugene Cancelliere, swore that Fulcanelli completed the great work in 1922 and simply disappeared. In 1952, Cancelliere claimed to have rediscovered his master in Spain. The man, who should have been 113 years old, looked 50. But the most disturbing detail: all these alchemists left the same encrypted message. The stone is nowhere to be found. The stone becomes as if the true secret were not a substance, but an irreversible transformation of the being itself. And perhaps that's why those who supposedly succeeded were never fully human again. And if these alchemists truly transformed themselves into something beyond human, what did they leave for us mere mortals? The answer will shock you. Virtually, everything that keeps you alive today exists thanks to these medieval madmen. And I'm not exaggerating. Remember that medicine you took for a headache? Aspirin derives from salicylic acid, discovered by alchemists trying to create the elixir of life from willow bark. Anesthesia for surgeries, for Celsus. Mixing opium with alcohol, searching for the tincture of immortality. Antibiotics, the concept that the poison that kills also cures, was born in alchemical laboratories 400 years before penicillin. But let's get to what really matters. They invented modern distillation. Today this gives us vodka and whiskey, but back then it allowed the creation of the first concentrated medicines. Maria the Jewess developed distillation equipment so perfect that the chemical industry still uses it today, virtually unchanged. Her bain-marie is used in every laboratory in the world, literally every one. In modern mining, alchemists developed techniques to extract precious metals using mercury and acids. These same techniques today extract gold from the components of your cell phone. In food preservation, trying to create incorruptible meat, they discovered salts that prevent decay. Today we call them preservatives, but the most impressive legacy lies in industry. Chinese porcelain was a secret kept for 1,000 years. European alchemists trying to create white stone. They accidentally discovered how to make it. Johann Friedrich Butger, an alchemist imprisoned for failing to make gold, created the first European porcelain. Today it's a billion-dollar industry. Pigments and paints that don't fade. Alchemists searching for the blood of the eternal dragon. Heat-resistant glass trying to create vials to contain the philosophical fire. Metal alloys searching for the perfect combination for transmutation. Even photography was born from alchemical experiments with silver salts that darkened in the light. Now for the psychological plot twist. Carl Jung spent 30 years studying alchemical texts. His conclusion: alchemy was psychology in disguise. Lead was trauma, gold, individuation, the philosopher's stone, the integrated self. All Jungian psychoanalysis uses alchemical symbolism. When you go to therapy today, you're using alchemical technology of inner transformation. But here's what no one expected. Quantum physics has proven the alchemists partially right. Transmutation exists. It occurs naturally in stars and artificially in nuclear reactors. In 1941, American physicists transformed mercury into gold by bombarding it with neutrons. The problem cost $1 million to convert dollars into gold, and the gold was radioactive. The largest nuclear power plant, LHC, the world's largest particle accelerator, performs transmutation every day, creating elements that don't exist in nature. Element 118, Ganesonium, exists for 0.7 thousand seconds before disintegrating. Modern alchemists with billion-dollar budgets are still searching for the stability that Flamel claimed to have found with two guilders. And most ironically, Silicon Valley companies are literally trying to create the elixir of life. Billionaires like Peter Thiel invest fortunes in longevity startups. Metformin, a diabetes drug, has been shown to extend life in rats by 40%. Transfusions of young blood, exactly as alchemists did, are in clinical trials. Cryogenics promises future resurrection. Google has an entire division, Calico, dedicated to solving death. Its annual budget, $1.5 billion, is more than all the alchemists in history spent combined, and it still doesn't come close to what Flamel claimed to have achieved in his Paris basement. But their deeper legacy lies elsewhere. The alchemists taught us the scientific method: hypothesis, experiment, observation, repetition. They documented everything obsessively. Every failure was a lesson, every accident a potential discovery. Without their unhealthy obsession with recording every detail, modern science simply wouldn't exist. And perhaps most importantly, they showed us that the impossible is just the possible, waiting for someone crazy enough to try. Every time you take a medicine, use a chemical, or dream of living forever, you're continuing their work. The only difference, they admitted they were searching for magic. We call it science, so now you know the truth. The philosopher's stone has always existed. It wasn't a substance, it was an obsession so powerful that it turned poisoners into doctors, madmen into scientists, and dreamers into immortals. Because in the end they achieved immortality. Not just the physical kind, but the only kind that truly matters. Their ideas are still alive, pulsing in every pill you take, in every chemical reaction happening right now within you. And perhaps this is the ultimate transmutation. They turned lead into gold. Yes, they transformed their heavy, poisoned lives into golden knowledge that has spanned centuries. They died so you could live longer. They went mad so you could understand. They sacrificed themselves in the dark so you could have light. Do you know what's most fascinating? You just spent your last few minutes doing exactly what they did, seeking hidden knowledge, deciphering secrets, transforming ignorance into wisdom. The only difference is that their transmutation took place in the mind, not in a vial. If this journey through the depths of history stirred something within you, if you felt that spark of curiosity that kept alchemists awake for endless nights, then you understand that knowledge like this can't die in a closed YouTube tab. Share this video with someone who also questions the impossible. Leave a like if you also believe that today's madmen are tomorrow's geniuses. And hey, tell me in the comments if you could choose between the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life, or a spiritual transmutation, which would you choose? Because I read every answer, and the most intriguing ones might become the next video. By the way, do you see this video appearing on your screen right now? It's about a secret society that still exists today, and that many believe is a direct heir to the medieval alchemists. They control banks, influence governments, and supposedly still hold the true formula for Flamel. Just click and continue down this historical rabbit hole with me. And if you haven't signed up yet, this is your chance to join our very own secret society, one that reveals history's darkest secrets every week. The activated bell is your symbol of initiation, because YouTube's algorithm, like alchemy, favors those who understand its mysteries. Until the next transmutation, and remember, you already have the philosopher's stone. It's between your ears, transforming information into consciousness right now. Use it wisely. M.